So I think we are ready to start and welcome everybody. I would say good afternoon if you are based in Europe as I am, as we probably are, but good morning to the people in Latin America that have just waken up, and good evening or good night to the many that are following us from Southeast Asia, from Asia in general, and also good afternoon or good morning or good evening from the people that are following us from all around the world. This is the Smallholders. It's the drivers of prosperity and sustainability. The new, and I would say the last for this season for 2021, a year again that has been dramatically killed, I would say, by COVID, but we're still here. We've resisted thanks to technology and to our webinar series that go under the title of Sustainable Nutrition. And today we go into the field of sustainability again, and we talk about the producer of sustainability. So Europe, as we know, is promoting and is trying to achieve the highest grade of sustainability through an immense effort of legislation, rules, policies, and I would say even an important cultural attitude that us as citizens are trying to develop. And I think, and I'm very proud to be European at this time of the year, because we are really, really making a step forward. But in order to do this, we need to engage the rest of the world. And let me say also that this is, with 2022 is the 10th anniversary of Competere, and 10 years ago we started this with the name of Policies for Sustainable Development. Competere, in fact, wants to foster policies that favor innovation and sustainability. And sustainability is what actually Europe, prepared the past years and for the future years, will try to achieve. And we will try to achieve this through more sustainable supply chains. And as we know, everybody that is engaged in the supply chain should produce and promote sustainability. And upstream or downstream, as we're used to say. But this time of the year, we wanted to bring to the table for discussion the voices of the ones that are really producing nutrients, food, whatever we eat on our table, because most of the food that we eat in Europe comes from abroad. And this food has to be produced in a sustainable way. This is at least what Europe wants, and that's why we have called here to discuss and to bring their voice here in Europe, and particularly in Brussels, of the food producer. And as we know, the farmers around the world, the ones that are exporting food over Europe, are usually very small farmers, or we call them smallholders, because the majority of farmers around the world are owning or cultivating very small pieces of land. We're talking about very few hectares that people farm, cultivate to produce something that gets to Europe or to the United States or to the rest of Europe. And now we want these people, we want them to produce food and nutrients in a very sustainable way. So certainly we give a challenge to them, but somehow we need to help them. On one side, we help very much with a lot of subsidies, and not just that, our European farmers, and we're very friendly with them, but at the same time, we should probably engage and help and support also the farmers around the world. So this time of the year, close to the New Year, we wanted to bring them around the table here at the Competere webinar, and we have a big list because apparently there was a lot of excitement around this webinar, and therefore we have a bunch of smallholders coming from all around the world, from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from Guatemala, and from Colombia. But before, just to provide us with a big picture of what or who the smallholders are and how they contribute to the development in terms of production of food, but also to social and economic development, how they improve their working and their life condition, and above all, how they can support sustainability. I want to do it starting with a think tank or NGO, as you want to call it, that is Solidaridad. And I want to start with a friend of Competere, that is Gar van de Biel, and Gar is the EU policy advisor for Solidaridad. So Gar, I want to start with you. As you know, we have very short time, very brief time, so I know that you can be as brief as possible, but I want to give the floor to you to start, to provide us with a big picture of who the smallholders are and how they contribute to social and economic development and how they could contribute to sustainability.
Thanks, Pietro, and thanks for Competere for having me here. I'm really thrilled to be here with so many voices from producers around the world. My name is Gert van der Bijl. I'm the EU policy advisor at Solidaridad. We are an international network organization working with around 1,000 people on the ground, working on sustainability in 13 supply chains, including coffee, cocoa, but also palm oil, working with smallholders around the world, in Asia, Africa, and Latin America in palm oil. And I've been asked to kick off this meeting with a few words about smallholders. First of all, smallholders, who are they? As much as 2.5 billion people around this world depend on smallholder farming for most of their livelihoods. In total, on 500 million farms, so incredible amounts. 70% of them are in Asia. Often the definition used for a smallholder farm is less than 2 hectares. Well, RSPO uses less than 50 hectares, but also in palm oil, most of these smallholder farms are only a few hectares. So what is key for smallholders to understand their position is that they have often limited resources. So a few areas of land, but also limited access to knowledge, seed, technology, water, markets, and credits. And the last thing is definitely important. But the positive side of this limited access that they often have to knowledge is that by providing better knowledge, by providing better technology, and by providing also credits and giving services to smallholders, there is a huge potential to improve smallholder production. To understand smallholders, I think it's important to realize that there is a huge diversity between smallholders. Some bigger, some a bit smaller, some commercial, some producing mostly for their own family, some intensive, some extensive, but a lot of them are poor and often food insecure. And a large part of the smallholders need to buy part of their food throughout at least the lean season. What is important to realize, contrary to what a lot of people think, is that smallholders are definitely not disappearing, or the number is not going down. On the contrary, an important reason for that is that unlike large farms, smallholders don't go bankrupt. So smallholders will continue farming both for cultural reasons, but also as long as there is no better alternative in a lot of cases. So what we see that in a lot of industrial countries in Europe, North America, and also in China, the number of farmers and smallholder farmers is going down. In most Asian countries, it's stabilizing, but certainly in in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, the number of smallholders is still going up, which also means that the average area is going down. Well, what is most of all important to realize is that smallholders are very important for food production. Around 1/3 of all food in the world is produced on farms with less than 2 hectares. But also around half of these smallholders participate in global supply chains, producing coffee, producing cocoa. 70 to 90% of all coffee, cocoa, but also rubber and sugarcane is produced on smallholder farms. In palm oil, this is around 40%. So major amount of palm oil is produced by smallholders. And also, contrary to what a lot of people think, this share is increasing. What we see, and that is happening in tea, but definitely also in palm oil, that the number of the production of smallholders and their share in overall production is increasing. So it's expected that in around 10-15 years, not 40%, but as much as 60% of all production in palm oil will come from smallholders. But as I said, a lot of them are poor because of the small area, because of the low production, but also because of the low prices they often have. What I find important to stress is that, contrary to what a lot of people think, smallholders are not necessarily inefficient. In general, there is an inverse relation between the area of a farm and the yield. So mostly with smaller farms, the production is higher. There are some exceptions on average, palm oil being one of them. The average yield of smallholder farmers is lower than on plantation, mostly because of elder planting material and lack of credit and possibility of smallholders to invest in new planting material. but also that provides possibilities to improve production. Smallholders tend to have a more diverse production system than larger farms. So they often have, what we also see in palm oil, food crops added to the cash crops, but sometimes livestock production. That is also a possibility to and a basis for sustainability. Most research shows that you can't say that smallholders are more environmentally sustainable by nature, but the most important thing for sustainability for the environment is management, and there is a huge potential for smallholders to improve production and to be even more important for the livelihood of their families. Smallholders are not necessarily more sustainable, but I would like to turn it around. There can be no sustainability and there can be no sustainable sector or sustainable palm oil production or any other production without smallholder inclusion. Many sustainability problems related to smallholder production are often rooted in poverty and in lack of access to resources. So if we really want to address sustainability in smallholder production, it's important to start with reducing poverty and starting with giving resources to smallholders. This also is important when we talk about deforestation. 4 weeks ago, the European Commission published a draft policy on what they call imported deforestation to make sure that imported companies like commodities like soy, but also palm oil are produced without deforestation. With a group of 6 NGOs, Solidaridad wrote a briefing to convince policymakers that if we really want to reduce deforestation, it is first of all important to team up with smallholders and to support smallholders in improving sustainability, in giving them access to knowledge and resources, and not to disengage with smallholders. My last point is about climate change, also related to deforestation. Smallholders around the world are likely the ones that are will be hit hardest, certainly in rain-fed systems. And often, other than larger farms, they often lack the resources to adjust their farms, to switch to new seeds, to use more resistant and resilient crops. So here, finance for smallholder farms for adaptation is really important. And at the moment, this is hardly reaching agriculture and certainly hardly reaching smallholders. So that works with smallholder farms to make their farm more resilient, but also to make sure that funding is reaching smallholders through carbon credits, for instance, by supporting farmers in agroforestry and add climate credit to the financial picture. There has been a lot of talk around COP26 on climate, saying that farming was not enough on the agenda. I would like to specify it. I think smallholders were not enough on the agenda. And if we really want to reduce or adjust to the climate change, we really need to work together with smallholders. Also for climate, I think what counts is what I've said before and what I would like to take as my closing remark. There can be no sustainability without smallholder inclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gert, for your remarks, and particularly for the study and the points that the call that you made to the European Commission that is available, I know, on the Solidaridad website. So I invite everybody to follow it and to support it. But thank you for what you said. There's no sustainability without smallholder, and you said there is no inclusion. There is no sustainability without the inclusion of smallholders. But particularly, I was very much impressed by the numbers that you gave. 2 hectares average for smallholders. So average around the world, smallholders own 2 hectares, and they basically produce for the entire planet. So if we want a zero deforestation policy, if we want to make sure that we tackle climate change, we definitely have somehow to make smallholders accountable. I agree, but on the other side, we need to provide them with the tools, with the investments, and with the resources to become authentically sustainable. But at the same time, they are already making incredible actions to become sustainable. And now, since somebody was asking in the chat, what's the agenda? Well, the agenda is on the competere.eu website. I will provide the URL. Don't forget, by the way, that this is a recorded event. Don't forget that we'll have some Spanish-speaking panelists, and we also have, I can see a lot of panelists from, a lot of audience from Latin American. So feel free to join the translation provided by our fantastic Patricia, the translator. You can choose on the globe bottom on the bottom of the Zoom, and you can choose the language you prefer, English or Spanish. But now I want to fly through very rapidly, like a fly through around the globe, with some of the speakers that we have invited who are authentic smallholders. And I want to start from Indonesia. The reason why I want to start from there is that Indonesia is one of the largest countries in the world with the largest population of smallholders. And dramatically, I would say, the largest population of smallholders are spread on an immense territory of more than 17,000 islands. So when we want to engage smallholders on such a big land with many islands, with difficult in infrastructure, well, we have a very tough work. But I want to call in as a great speaker, and we're very honored to have him here, Diono Burhan, who is representative of the Indonesian Palm Oil Smallholder Association. So Diono, the floor is to you. I remind to all of you the 5 minutes rule that we have. I'm the first one not respecting it, so please, the floor is yours. If you can provide a picture of what Indonesian smallholders are doing, you know, to come out of poverty, to look for inclusion, and on the other side, to foster sustainability.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Pietro Paganini. Very good evening, very good morning, and good afternoon to all of us. Before I start, I would like to share my screen. I will be very brief. I cannot share my screen, Mr. Pietro.
Because you didn't tell me earlier that you had a presentation. And
I sincerely apologize for that.
Punish you for that. I now need to find you. Here you are. And now
maybe I'm that excited.
Now you should be able.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr.
I would punish my students for that. 10 points.
Please do not punish me for that. Okay, I will try to make it very, very brief since our time is only 5 minutes. Let me introduce myself. My name is Diono Burhan. I'm from Indonesia Oil Palm Smallholders Association, or in Indonesia, we call it APKASindo. So in Indonesia, yes, it's the biggest archipelago country in the world. So we have oil palm tree across Indonesia from Sumatra Island to Papua Island. And the percentage, the biggest players of palm oil is in industry is that the first one is the private sector. It's around 8.68 million hectares. Followed by the second one is the smallholders, 6.72 million hectares, and followed by the government, 0.98 million hectares. So smallholders is quite a big player in Indonesia. Indonesia is the biggest palm oil producer in the world. So I would like to describe a little bit of information in this data that we can see. This is the price of FFB, because for smallholders, the very important thing for us as smallholders is the price of FFB. That determines how well we earn the money from palm oil. And we can see the price of FFB in 3 provinces in Indonesia, in Riau province, in West Kalimantan, and in North Sumatra, in 3 different islands. And we can see the difference. It's just a mere, not that much. However, we can see the year from 2019 to 2021. And we can see, we need to remember that in 2020 is the beginning of the pandemic. And we can see here the price of FFB for smallholders in Indonesia was increasing. So it's very beneficial to the smallholders. In the pandemic situation, the smallholders did not really feel the negative impact of the pandemic. And we can see here that this is the real picture of 2 different kind of villages that doesn't have palm oil, and the one is the one who could have the palm oil. We can see the road is much better when the smallholders have the oil palm tree, and the houses and the livelihood. And I would say that across Indonesia, compared to other crops, palm oil is quite beneficial, and it's financially obtainable for the smallholders in Indonesia. So it's really important for us to understand that palm oil really help the smallholders not only in the cities, but these villages. The villages, I really do agree with what Mr. Gert mentioned, that smallholders inclusion equal to sustainability. So this is what it means, that the smallholders can really reap the benefit from palm oil plantation. And in Indonesia, we also have ISPO, Indonesia Sustainable Palm Oil Certification. It is actually mandatory for private and government sector. However, it's still voluntary for smallholders, since there are still homework for smallholders to be more sustainable, since the accessibility, the resources, and all. So it's very important for the smallholders to be more sustainable. However, we are on that track to be more sustainable. And here's the challenges. I would like to mention two challenges of Indonesia oil palm smallholders. The first one is about the productivity. The productivity of smallholders is the blue line. The productivity of the corporation is the orange line. We can see the gap is very big, meaning that there is still much more productivity that the smallholders can improve. So it's very important, because the productivity of the FFB and also the price of FFB really determines how the oil palm beneficial to the smallholders, the family, the villages. And the second challenges is about the supply chain. As we know that Indonesia, a very big archipelago, the biggest archipelago, the type of smallholders is also many varies. And one definition of smallholders in Indonesia is just less than 25 hectares. So whoever has less than 25 hectares is a smallholder. However, there are some only have 1 hectare, 2 hectares, 3 hectares. They cannot sell it directly to the mill, or they don't have the cooperation. So the supply chain is getting longer and longer, and the price of FFB that the smallholders get is very low, and low. So this is the ideal supply chain, is that the smallholders and then sell it to their cooperation. In a cooperation, the smallholders can improve their productivity as a whole, and then they gather the FFB and then they sell it directly to the mill. So those smallholders get the full price from the mill. However, it's very long. There are some parts of a supply chain that is very long, from smallholders selling it to cooperation, very small cooperation, sell it to small buyer, then sell it to big buyer, and then big buyer sell it to DO holder, and then going to the mill. So the one that is not very beneficial is the smallholders, because the longer the supply chain, the less the price in the beginning of the supply chain is. I would like to close it by saying that brighter future generation with palm oil, because palm oil is not only beneficial to people in the city. However, we can create new agropolitan, new agro-industry in the villages. The people, the kids, the students, look how happy they are. They know that their parents have palm oil. They go to school from palm oil. And yes, palm oil is really, really a promising crop for the future. Thank you so much. I would like to hand it over to Mr. Pietro Paganini. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Diono, for being here with us and for being here at such a late time in the evening in Southeast Asia, and from bringing the experience and the picture of the palm oil smallholder producer, and particularly the role that the palm oil or oil palm plantation play in enhancing the life condition of smallholders, but also in providing us some of the challenges that are common among and throughout, I would say, all commodities, particularly the challenge of this long supply chain. That's what we do at school in international businesses, how to tackle long supply chain with a lot of intermediaries, who pays the highest price or who makes the least money. And on the other side, to have mentioned the problem with productivity and therefore the lack of resources and to make investment. But despite of this tremendous effort, doing or achieving great results. And in this perspective, as you represented the association, we also wanted, and we were very lucky and delighted to have here with us Maria. Maria is actually a smallholder, a farmer from Indonesia, and I want to thank her for being here with us. So Maria, you definitely find yourself in the presentation that was given here by Pak Diono. Do you see yourself in this challenge?
Yes, of course. As a palm oil farmers myself, I agree and secondhand the challenge that being presented by Jono, fellow farmers in Indonesia and fellow farmers in the association as well. Because being a small farmers, again, referring to the definition of the small, which can be, of course, different in different countries and different continents on different islands in Indonesia itself. But we have limited land, we have limited resources, limited knowledge, especially when we're being handed on as a second generations that present us with lots of challenges, including the sustainability, which of course has to be part of the productivity package, which being mentioned by Jono in his deck earlier. Why? Because of now that we're being asked, not really asked, but demanded or forced to be sustainable and transform our management, agriculture management, from the traditional one that we know by nature that being passed down from generations, to something that is being tried to be taught for us through a book. And it's not that simple, especially for me being the second generations. Luckily, because of palm oil, I was able to gain an education, higher education, but not all the children of palm oil farmers were able to gain that education. The question is, would they be able to understand what being said, what being directed in the book of the sustainable definitions? That's another challenge.
I want to interrupt you. Sorry for being impolite, but you mentioned something very important. What is this book about?
That's the so-called ISPO certifications that is being educated, socialized to all our palm oil farmers in Indonesia. What is ISPO? Of course, it's a local version of Indonesia from what we try to translate to our local culture and local situations, according to the standard or considerations from RSPO. Because before, all the farmers were asked to have these certifications of RSPO, but again, different soil, different land has different cultures, and we Indonesian fields, we need to have our own touch in our own certification of sustainability, and thus the government produced the ISPO. Now, the challenge is that this ISPO is being socialized, but of course with different conditions of these old palm farmers with different background educations. We have these huge challenges on how to make sure that we all reading the same book and have the same understandings. And thus the challenge on bringing the balance on the gap of productivity.
Maria, thank you very much, because you brought us an incredible experience. The fact that you are a second generation smallholder, the fact that thanks to, in this case, oil palm plantation, your family was able to basically send you to school. And this is an incredible achievement. And you are a second generation, you are bringing management into the plantation. And you say, still, I have a managerial background, I have education, but bringing sustainability to the table, introducing sustainability into our production process is a challenge. What do you feel you need to be supported to become easily, I would say, and productively sustainable?
Right. The first thing that we need, of course, is the coaching, because in my experience, in my understanding, because when coming from a family with a traditional agricultural background as a farmers, what being told to me from my parents are the traditional practices. And yet when now I'm in the business helping my families, I'm suddenly requested to adopt a new agricultural practices. Do I need to Google it out? Do I need to find different resources with different standards and definitions? So which one do I need to clung to? So thus I really need a fellow or a guidance or a coach, which could provide me with informations and practical tips and informations, especially that now, of course, every families, every farmers, when it comes when we come to the word families, it also comes with the definitions of cultures. There's also the problems with the second-hand generations that we also need to adjust while we're trying to adopt the new sustainability. We're trying to persuade the former generation to, you know what, we really have to adapt these new and adopt these new practices so that we can stand and we can exist in the market. So there's another challenge. And then another challenge, because now the requirement of the market also is being not so stable, but luckily it's being getting stable now, but because it influenced the finance, the money that's coming in versus the money that's coming out for us, the farmers. So those are the challenges that are very difficult for us. In these terms, what I feel as the one that is on field is that if the policies out there are not stand grounded, I mean, if it's keep changing, which influence the price, by the end of the day, it won't bring any benefit for us. It will just cripple us because we then have to spend more than getting in more. Then we should ask whether we should stay holding on this plantation or should we just give it up, sell our land and just do or change our commodity. That will be the questions. Is sustainable means that we have to give up our food on the table and our coming in? So that's the biggest questions for our now second generation farmers.
Thank you, Maria. If I have to say and apologize if we have time, because we have many speakers like you, farmers, proud farmers like you, and I'm very proud to have you on board and bringing your voice to Europe. You mentioned two important concepts: the one of coaching, that is not coaching for a better balanced life, as we intend here is Europe, but it's how to become authentically sustainable. But on the other side, you pointed to a very important argument, is the balance between human needs and sustainability. And let's not forget that even the Pope, that lives not far away from me here, was talking about a delicate balance between human needs and sustainability or biodiversity protection. And you said, what should I give up? My living standard, my hope to prosperity. So this is an incredible good point that we should bring here for discussion in Europe. But let me turn instead to the Malaysian Association of Smallholders. Malaysia, another big country next to Indonesia, of course. And, you know, many smallholders, most of them who are engaged in oil palm plantation, like in the case of Indonesia. And by the way, I want to open a parenthesis. There is just a little debate going on the chat here. There is an old friend of mine, Salvatore, who represents the rubber industry, or international study group for the rubber industry, who is bringing up the discussion on the definition. We also have a representative of Nigerian smallholders in the crowd, so very, very welcome here. Let me move to Dr. Azmil Hassan from the Malaysian Association of Smallholders. Can you provide us with a picture, as it was done by Pak Diono, on the situation in Malaysia? Because I know that there's been a lot of challenges, shortage because of COVID, shortage of the workforce in the oil palm plantations. And in some cases, also some discussion about the level of working and labor rights. Dr.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pietro. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat sejahtera. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening to every participant and to all panelists. My almost thank the organizer for inviting National Association of Smallholders of Malaysia, NASH, to be short, to be one of the panelists. Before I proceed, allow me to introduce myself and my organization. I'm Azmi Hassan. Currently the Deputy President of NASH. NASH is an NGO with a vision to establish smallholder sector with a legitimate right in the distribution of country wealth and place the smallholder with high esteem in the society. The main objectives of NASH is to uplift the socio-economic status of the smallholders through close collaboration with the government and other NGOs in ensuring all development resources harnessed to increase productivity and toward achieving a sustainable economic status in the economic development of Malaysia. Okay, on the smallholder development in Malaysia, oil palm industry started in the early 50s. The Malaysian government introduced development policy targeted to reduce poverty level among the poor citizens and have selected oil palm as single high value crop that can increase people income. Strategically, the government have embarked on massive land development, or you can call it deforestation during the whole days, to achieve the stated policy objectives by giving land to the poor citizen to be developed into oil palm smallholdings. This ignites the successful development of oil palm smallholders sectors in Malaysia palm oil industry. And today, smallholder sectors have contributed significantly to the Malaysian economy. In Malaysia, for your information, oil palm smallholding are those areas of less than 40.46 hectares. But mind you, majority of the smallholders owning an average of 3 to 5 hectares. For the larger than 40.46 hectares are the plantation. As at end of 2020, area under oil palm total 5.865 million hectares. Of this total, 4.237 million hectares, that is 72.2%, are plantation area, and 1.628 million hectares, that is 27.8%, are smallholders, which the total families involved is nearly 1.6 or 1 to 7 million people. The smallholders are either organized or independent in stature. While the organized smallholders have technical, manpower, and market support from the government, land development agencies, the independent smallholders are family-run and lacking proper management due to capital constraint, and this leads to low productivity. In the case of sustainability of palm oil supply, earlier, voluntary roundtable sustainable palm oil, RSPO, a sustainable standard involving sector-wide engagement, have been applied to the sectors of the oil palm industry, mainly to the integrated plantation to ensure sustainable palm oil supply. While smallholders, especially the independent smallholders, are only peripheral in the supply chain. Currently, the Malaysian smallholders have embraced sustainable practices, as when the government of Malaysia mandated Malaysian sustainable palm oil, they call it MSPO, to all planted area in 2017. Currently, with the government assistance, the organized and the independent smallholders are certified free of charge. By June 2021, 100% of organized smallholders have been successfully certified under MSPO, while the independent smallholders, 50% have been certified, and hopefully, with God willing, by 2022, I hope smallholders in Malaysia will be MSO certified. With MSO principle of good agriculture practices, smallholders experiencing comparatively a better productivity. For your information, Malaysia Sustainable Palm Oil MSO is a certification program, homegrown sustainability standard, covering all the principles and elements to fulfill the needs of sustainable palm oil supply to the world market. Okay, as you mentioned about challenges, I agree that some of the challenges that is happening in Indonesia, also we are facing it in Malaysia. But the main challenge faced by the smallholders in adopting sustainable standard is the absence of tangible benefit, i.e. price, which is related to income. From this certification approach and had turned into this certification approach, I think in future will become an expensive affair with no premium to the smallholders. With no government assistance and less emphasis on earning model, this I emphasize, earning model of the farmers, which is mentioned by Pak Jono, is not earning model of the farmers to produce better and return and income, better return and income. It seemed a fruitless effort producing sustainable oil palm. My conclusion on sustainability is very simple. The hard effort by the smallholders to produce sustainable palm oil should be compensated with sustainable premium price by the consumer to ensure prosperity. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, because you ended with a very clear message, in this case regarding oil palm production, and you want to have a premium price. And this is one of the greatest challenges that probably in the debate around sustainability, zero deforestation, biodiversity protection, and tackling what we call climate change, or the speed how climate change in a way is unfortunately devastating our planet, is it comes to a cost. It's a cost that either is paid by smallholders and farmers, or is a cost that is paid by consumer. And I'm sure that none of the two wants to pay this price. But this is an issue that we should bring to the table of discussion here in Europe, where we want sustainability, but not all of us can afford to pay for this, at least economically. So that's a discussion that we really have to do. And I know that some members of the European Parliament, some are following us here today, have raised this issue. Who pays for this? And there is a cost, and we need absolutely to tackle it. But let me say goodbye or good night to Asia. I know it's late there, so I'm turning. Guys, there are some questions that are being posted on the question and answer. If we won't have time to answer them on live, please use the question and answer to address them and to respond them. Feel free to do it, and feel free to make more questions. Let me fly all around the world to the other side of the Atlantic or the Pacific, and particularly to Guatemala. Guatemala being such a, I would say, tiny state, but with an incredible production of commodities that are, for most of it, exported worldwide, and particularly to Europe. And among them, of course, we have sugar, cocoa, and of course, rising very fast, we have oil palm. And today with us, I'm very glad, because we have a representative of the Agroindustria Palmera, that is Juan Lemos. Juan, what is the situation of smallholders in a tiny country that I know is doing an amazing work for sustainability?
Hola, Pietro. Hola a todos los panelistas y a los que están
Juan, let me
escuchando.
interrupt you for a second. You're going to speak in Spanish. You hablar español. If you need translation, the small globe down there in Zoom, choose Spanish or English and enjoy Juan talk. Please, Juan, thank you so much. Go ahead.
Ok, muchas gracias. Igual voy a necesitar compartir una pequeña presentación.
Give me a second. You can go.
Ok, buenos días, buenas tardes y buenas noches a todos. Muchas gracias por la oportunidad que nos brindan para poder hablar un poco sobre quiénes somos y nuestros pequeños productores. Pues nosotros somos inversionistas guatemaltecos que nos dedicamos al cultivo de palma de aceite desde el año 2007 y estamos en 3 regiones al norte de Guatemala. Contamos con 7,000 hectáreas propias, 2 plantas de beneficio, una terminal para exportación y, lo más importante, 4,600 hectáreas de pequeños productores asociados. También tenemos certificaciones ISCC y RCPO. Nosotros tenemos 117 productores, de los cuales 64 productores son menores a 10 hectáreas. Tenemos 48 productores que van de 10 a 100 hectáreas y solo 5 productores que superan las 100 hectáreas. Los tenemos clasificados de esta manera porque tienen retos diferentes cada uno de ellos, como bien lo han platicado los demás panelistas. Nosotros los apoyamos con la infraestructura necesaria para logística de transporte, de manera eficiente, a bajo costo, también con infraestructura necesaria para que puedan brindar mejores condiciones a sus familias, colaboradores, como equipos de protección, biodep, ecofiltros para agua, centros de acopio de envases vacíos, manejo de desechos y zonas de descanso. Tenemos un equipo técnico de mucha experiencia que diariamente transfiere tecnología y conocimiento a nuestros productores. Los capacitamos en todas las buenas prácticas agrícolas de nutrición, sanidad vegetal, cosecha. Tenemos un programa de entrega de fertilizante. Hemos hecho varias alianzas estratégicas. Cabe mencionar que hemos hecho alianzas estratégicas con clientes ONGs, como por ejemplo con Cargill y Solidaridad para brindar capacitaciones, también algunos estudios para poder obtener la certificación RCPO, aplicaciones móviles para poder ser más eficientes en las buenas prácticas agrícolas. También como parte de las alianzas estratégicas que hemos hecho varias publicaciones de manuales de buenas prácticas agrícolas en el cultivo de palma de aceite para pequeños productores y manuales de prácticas agrícolas también específicamente para nuestros productores. Sabemos que el desarrollo de pequeños productores de palma de aceite se convierte en un modelo de diversificación de sus ingresos, desarrollo de sus comunidades y es un mecanismo también para poder generar empleo y oportunidades. Al promover y apoyar técnicamente a productores, también es algo que alivia a mediano y largo plazo los problemas de pobreza y la falta de servicios que tenemos en el área rural en Guatemala. También creemos que los esfuerzos que hacemos como empresa apoyando a productores se vuelven todavía más relevantes, ya que estamos invirtiendo tiempo, recursos y capacidad instalada. Podemos asegurar que esa producción de aceite de palma está pegada a estándares internacionales de sostenibilidad. También conocemos las regulaciones y las políticas como las que están proponiendo o las que ya están creciendo en la Unión Europea, que sí preocupan porque eso puede ser un detonante para que estos esfuerzos con los pequeños productores no puedan seguir adelante. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Juan. I just have one question for you. If you can stop sharing the screen, please. What, with the new EU policies and requests for sustainability, what is the main challenge for smallholders in Guatemala? And are you afraid of this challenge ahead?
Sí, digamos que como lo han compartido los demás panelistas, el tema de los precios es un gran desafío porque han tenido cambios drásticos en los últimos años. Hemos llegado a tocar precios de $430 por tonelada de aceite y en la actualidad podemos estar en $1,300, $1,350 por tonelada de aceite, precio CIF Rotterdam, ¿verdad? Entonces, ese es un desafío. El otro desafío son digamos, cumplir con la certificación para poder exportar nuestro aceite y hacer las prácticas y todo un ambiente sostenible, porque es un tema cultural también. Al tratar con pequeños productores es muy complicado cambiar ciertos usos y costumbres a los que ellos están arraigados en la agricultura. Para nosotros en Guatemala, pues es la primera generación de productores, de pequeños productores de palma de aceite. Si se dan cuenta, nuestra empresa arranca a partir del 2007 y el programa de productores a partir del 2009. Entonces, es un reto, como bien lo mencionaba María. Tenemos ciertos estándares que cumplir, pero no están acorde a nuestra realidad nacional. Entonces es un desafío muy grande que estamos tratando de solventar para poder llevar estas 4,600 hectáreas, estos 117 productores a una certificación para poder ser competitivos internacionalmente, ¿verdad?
Gracias, Juan. In the meanwhile, if you can stop your sharing your presentation, because I like to move to your neighbors in Colombia. Colombia is another great exporter of commodities that are coming into Europe, and the usual ones, and some of the ones are actually today under the focus of the new European regulation. And as we did with Indonesia, having here Maria, and again, thank you, Maria, for being here with us so late in the evening. I know in the morning you have to be down in the field. I want to introduce, first of all, Daniel Mauricio Rico Valencia, who is the founder and director of Sea Analysis. And later on, I'd like to introduce, again, two smallholders, two farmers that are actually working in the fields where they produce, in this case, oil palm that comes to Europe. They will bring us our experience. So stay here, stay tuned. I know that the rule online is after 45 minutes, people get tired and they disappear. But please stay here with us because we have two important speakers, two important farmers. But before, Daniel, I want to move with you because you made a study and I want you to present the studies to us. And you have been focusing on local communities and the impact on oil palm plantations on local communities and how this has helped enhancing the living standard of such communities. So Daniel, floor is yours.
Hello, Pietro. Thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, I just want to make sure everybody is listening and seeing the screen. I have one slide, so
we are.
If we are technically able, I can continue. Okay, my name is Daniel Rico. My expertise, I do policy and impact evaluation on rural areas in Colombia. So we conduct this study a couple of years ago. And the main question was, Colombia has almost or nearly double the area of oil or palm oil plantations. So we moved from near 300,000 hectares to nearly 600,000 hectares of oil palm. And we just start asking the question about, okay, what happened in local communities for not only for smallholders oil palm plantations, but also to the local communities, the ones that are directly involved in the production line of oil palm, but also with the communities that have family members in the companies or that just locally are neighbors of oil palm plantations in Colombia. So what we see in this period is that the area of oil palm doubles, but also expand to new locations, to new municipalities. So this just one slide. I want to share just as answering the question, okay, what happened to a local community, to a municipality, that when 1% of the territory of this community, it's now under plantation of oil palm. So we did this impact evaluation. This has really high statistics standards. This has a causality analysis. We have an instrumental variable, and this is built based on difference and difference model. So this is, has a quite good technique in terms of statistics. And we just asked this question, okay, what mattered in education? We have a long period of analysis. We have nearly 1 decade. And what we observe is that for each 1% of the area of oil palm that expands in each municipality, we will have an impact of 2.7% of increase in primary education. It means that the rate of kids that should be in primary education increase nearly 3 times in terms of the increase of palma. The same happens for high school. We have 2%. We have an 1.4% for higher education. After high school, people that go to technical schools or universities. Also, in health system, what we observe is that for each 1% that oil palm plantations expands in each municipality, we see an increase of 2% of the numbers of families and members that are covered by a health insurance system in Colombia. Two things that are important so far to highlight here. It's that, previous oil palm plantations are established in this location. What we observe in most of the Colombian rural areas is that 86% of the smallholders of different type of products, not oil palm, from any other different type of products, remain on informal labor conditions. So what really is changing this is it's oil palm, but because oil palms brings formalization, formal and stable and legal labor contracts with all the benefits that it brings. So this this different relation in terms of labor conditions is moving through health and education. We all, as you know, we have a main problem in Colombia with coca crops cultivation. I mean, it's an illegal, and it brings a lot of violence in terms of narcotics activity. And for a bad reason, oil palm and coca cultivation also has to compete for the use of land, for the use of land, man force, for the use of technology, for different conditions. So oil palm cultivation in Colombia has to face a market of illegality and competition with coca crops. So what we observe is that oil palms also contribute in those municipalities that has coca crops, and oil palm comes as the first time to be planted in that territory. We observe a 14% reduction in coca crops cultivation in that territory. On environment, that is a critical issue. Unfortunately, we didn't have much data in the government to measure a policy evaluation. We have just very basic variables. One of them that we were able to capture, I mean, we wish to have more data to provide an impact evaluation in terms of deforestation or in terms of other variables that are important for environment. But what we observe so far is that the government doesn't have good data, so we cannot compare the previous and the past and the future of when oil palm is established. What we will able to observe is that in water quality, it's an improvement of 8% in the quality of water in those territories when oil palms arrive. The reason is very simple. Oil palm pay taxes. Oil palm cultivation and companies pay taxes to local authorities, to local governments. And as a result, they're able to invest more resources in water systems, sanitation, education, health. Two final conclusions. We also see an importance in terms of local investment. I mean, how much money the local government and the parliament level and national level is able to invest in those territories once legal companies, when oil palm cultivation are established in those municipalities. We observe an increase in 9.7% on local investment for different reasons and purpose. And finally, what we believe is the most important, I mean, is the huge connection of all of these positive results and impacts, is that the level of formal conditions for labor. So that's I mean, I think it's 5 minutes now, but that's the general conditions of this research. So I will be happy to answer any questions or to provide any additional results or data to anybody that has an interest on it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Daniel. Daniel or Rico? I never know when I find with three names. I will call you Daniel anyway, or Rico. Rico.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Rico. I'm flying to Spain tonight, so I need to know which is the right now. But thank you, because you provided incredible data, very useful. I actually encourage everybody that is following us from working in different commodities to produce some of these studies, to compare and to explain also to European leaders how these commodities, how these crops, how these plantations are positively impacting on healthcare coverage, education, extremely important. We saw this with Maria earlier, how second generation could go to school. And particularly, Rico, thank you, because you focused specifically on palm oil, and you showed how 1% of land dedicated to palm oil is impacting on the life of hundreds of family and people. We're going to share your slide. We're going to steal it if you're not going to provide it to us. We're going to put it online because this is an incredible, useful slide. Thanks. Stay here with us. I'm moving. If you can turn off your screen sharing, because I want to move to Maria from Fede Palma in Colombia. And Maria has been incredibly useful because she has helped. You can switch it off. Wonderful. Let me find Maria here among my our guests. Maria is here. Maria Rueda. Maria is in Colombia right now, And Maria is doing a big favor to me because my Spanish is very limited. I understand, as you know, but I can't speak fluently. And Maria has helped us bringing to the table 2 speakers, 2 smallholders from Colombia, 2 farmers that this morning have left their plantation. They work in the palm oil plantation, oil palm plantation, and they came to the screens. In one case, they had to travel 2 hours to get to a computer connection. They're here and they're bringing their experience to us. And particularly, we're talking about Nelcy Vega and Teresa Peña. And Maria, I give you the floor to introduce them, and eventually I will come in with two questions. We have some more minutes left, and then we get to the conclusions. And again, stay here online because we're going to get this incredible experience. I would say it's probably one of the first time that an organization like us, Competere.eu, a nonprofit, is bringing the voice to Europe of smallholders, real ones, not the one we read in the books, real ones. So Maria, the floor is yours. And you're going to speak in Spanish, I assume. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. Well, hello to everyone. My name is Maria Rueda. I'm the social leader of Fede Palma. Fede Palma is the National Federation of Oil Palm Growers in Colombia. Today I'm going to introduce 2 smallholders that are an example of commitment. Both are women who have had to overcome obstacles to get where they are right now. The first one is Nelcy Vega. Nelcy was born in Santander. When she was a child, her father bought a farm in Becerril, another municipality. Nelcy started dentistry and raised her family, but unfortunately in 2001, an illegal armed group murdered her father. The farm was abandoned during some years, and then Nelcy decided to resume her father's activity, but she didn't have any experience in oil palm. Today, her plantation is a reference. We work very close to her. She divides her time between her family, her plantation, and social work. She's a very active social worker, and she's also studying oil palm cultivation and harvesting in the SENA institution. The second person is Teresa Peña. Teresa, born in Cúcuta, and for the last 18 years, he has dedicated to oil palm cultivation in Tibú, in Norte de Santander. Tibú is one of the municipalities affected by the violence in our country. Teresa studied agriculture and machinery maintenance at the SENA too, and she wanted her plantation become a model of micro-enterprise in the region, and she have it. Today, she's a pioneer in RSPO good practices. She also awarded with the Mujer Palmera Award. We gave it in Fede Palma every year. She awarded it in 2017. So they both are going to tell us how the oil palm impacted their lives.
Thank you so much, Maria. Shall we start with, I know she goes under the name of Lisa here, but actually-
It's Nelcy.
Exactly. So let's go with you first. Let's take our 5 minutes, please. And the floor is really yours. And thank you for being here with us, leaving your plantation and your incredible story to be here with us.
¿Ya? Buenos días. Gracias, María. Gracias por esta gran oportunidad. Como lo dijiste, mi padre se apagó su luz en el 2001, pero se encendió y dejó encendido un mechón enorme. La palma para mí es vida. La palma para mí es el tener a mis padres vivos todo el tiempo. La palma ha sido y será siempre una oportunidad de educación. Mis hijos, hoy profesionales en unas excelentes universidades, gracias a la fe, porque comencé gateando. Gateando es solamente sabiendo que existía un cultivo que dejó mi padre con sus manos, agricultor excelente, de valores excelentes, que se llamaba palma, no sabía más nada. Hoy camino en un maravilloso cultivo, camino en una gran oportunidad de vida, no solamente para mi familia, porque somos todos unos enamorados de la palma, del cultivo de palma. Generamos calidad de vida a nuestros trabajadores, damos oportunidades a sus hijos. Estamos aprendiendo de la sostenibilidad, un mundo maravilloso, de quitar esos tabús que no se puede, que se daña el medio ambiente. No, no y no. La palma con la sostenibilidad es cuidar del medio ambiente, es cuidar del agua, es amar el agua, es amar la fauna, es cuidarla. Es respetar al ser humano que trabaja para nosotros. ¿Cómo lo respetamos? Mejorando su calidad de vida, brindándoles su seguridad social. Si ellos tienen una calidad de vida excelente, nosotros, los dueños de esa empresa, porque ya Mi Palma es una empresa familiar, nosotros también seguimos adelante, nosotros seguimos triunfando a diario. Hemos venido aprendiendo de la mano de las grandes especialistas en ambiental, en social, como Brenda, Daniela, a hacer las mejores prácticas en mi cultivo. La formalización laboral para mí ha sido una experiencia maravillosa. Mis trabajadores son orgullos a mostrar de mis otros compañeros palmicultores vecinos. Mi plantación es un orgullo, es algo hermoso, yo la veo como la más linda, porque con mi ejemplo, mis vecinos han venido a mirar en mi cultivo, a ver que comenzamos de algo tan mínimo, de algo de que a veces nos decía, o yo misma me decía, no se puede, porque somos mujeres. Pero hoy yo le digo a todos, sí se pueden hacer las cosas bien, podemos obtener grandes frutos y podemos seguir adelante. Ver a unos niños que antes simplemente se quedaban en casa por un jornal, sin tener un acceso a una educación, sin tener un acceso a un puesto de salud, a una recreación, y saber que hoy, por la formalización laboral, se las he brindado, es grande. Para mí es un orgullo ver a mi cultivo que comenzamos de tener arrumado en una pieza grande, instrumentos, bombas, todo revuelto, y hoy entender que organizar una bodega de agroquímicos, que organizar una cama biológica, que organizar una bodega de herramientas, que mis muchachos tengan su CPP, que todo eso es ganancia no solamente para mí, sino para mis trabajadores, y que sus familias están tranquilas porque van a trabajar, que si tienen un cuasi accidente, que trabajamos también para que no suceda, que educamos, porque cada día vienen los agrónomos, vienen los que nos capacitan en todo, y nosotros nos tomamos 5 minutos de nuestros días al comenzar la labor, recordándoles que en casa nos esperan, que trabajo seguro, y ver esos resultados y a esas familias alegres, para nosotros es felicidad. Yo me siento orgullosa, yo me siento la mejor palmicultora del mundo, me siento recogiendo esa satisfacción, el orgullo de ver a mis hijos, a mi sobrino, que es una prolongación de la vida de mi padre, que sé que no va a morir el día que Dios me llame a cerrar los ojos este cultivo, sino que la sostenibilidad se da también a la prolongación de mis hijos, de mis sobrinos que ya están enamorados. Es un orgullo para mí que mi hija se haya venido de un país donde se está especializando y que su especialización que haya buscado también es en sostenibilidad, es arquitecto y buscó todo esto, que mi hijo también haya buscado una carrera afín, que mi sobrino también esté buscando estudiar para continuar este legado y brindar la oportunidad y la calidad de vida a los que están alrededor mío, es grande. Es recoger lo que se ha venido trabajando. Es difícil, como dicen todos mis compañeros, porque venimos con tabúes de las anteriores generaciones, pero sí lo podemos lograr. La palma es vida y ese es el mensaje que quiero dejar para todos.
Thank you so much, Nelsie. Thank you very much for being so passionate, but also for continuing the legacy. I would like to say, getting close to the end of this webinar, that this is the smallholder legacy. And I promise you that we'll make sure to bring your voice, the voice of Maria and the voice of Teresa here to the floor here in Europe, because it's important to understand when we talk about supply chains, what is on this supply chain and how important it is to engage all the players and all the actors. But also thank you for being here and taking the time from your plantation to tell us your story and the story, the unfortunate story of your family and your dad, but on the other side also the great work and passion that you put in continuing this legacy and to look ahead. And I'm sure that the next European legislation will consider this incredible effort. I want to move to one of your colleagues. You said that you are probably the best palm producer, small producer in the world. I'm sure that Teresa thinks the same, and I'm sure Maria in Indonesia thinks the same, and we can engage competition here. Very good. Teresa, is Teresa here? She should be here. Teresa.
Sí, buenos días.
Buenos
¿Me
días.
escuchan? Perfecto.
Perfecto.
Okay. Como decía mi compañera, para mí, La Palma, de verdad, mi nombre es Teresa Peña Corredor. Vivo en el municipio de Tibú, del departamento del norte de Santander, Colombia. Tengo actualmente sembrados 10 hectáreas de palma y para mí la palma es vida. Hace más de 20 años que estoy con la cultivo de la palma. Ha sido una vida, ha sido una transformación de vida. La palma me ha traído desarrollo, progreso. Gracias a la palma he mejorado mi calidad de vida en un 100%. He mejorado mi vivienda. He mandado a mis hijos a estudiar a la universidad. Ya están que terminan. Gracias a la palma yo he logrado estudiar. Estoy cursando el último semestre de Administración de Salud Ocupacional. Y gracias a la palma y gracias a los ingenieros que me han capacitado, Fede Palma, he logrado la sostenibilidad, que mi meta era eso, que mi finca fuera modelo, que fuera ejemplo a seguir para los otros compañeros palmicultores, tanto pequeños como medianos, grandes, a nivel municipal, departamental, nacional y por fuera, también a nivel país, fuera del país, porque mi palma ya está, el cultivo está certificado en RCPO, en buenas prácticas de sostenibilidad. Y a mí me encanta todo el tema de sostenibilidad porque la sostenibilidad encierra toda una magnitud, un complejo que es beneficioso tanto para nosotros como para nuestra comunidad, para el mismo palmicultor y para el trabajador, ya que somos sostenibles en la social, porque gracias a la palma nosotros le damos formalización laboral a nuestros trabajadores, seguridad social, implementamos un sistema de gestión de seguridad social para evitar, protegerlos en el caso de accidentes o enfermedades laborales, capacitarlos en todo el tema relacionado con las buenas prácticas, en el manejo de la conservación del ambiente, que es un tema muy importante, la cero deforestación, la conservación de la fauna, las especies silvestres, la no tala de los bosques, la conservación del agua. Entonces, todo este tema de sostenibilidad ha hecho que nosotros como palmicultores tomemos concientización y nos capacitemos y conservemos todo, protejamos a nuestros trabajadores, al medio ambiente, a los niños, porque gracias a la palma, los niños ya han aumentado el estudio, como decía la diapositiva, ha aumentado, los niños están yendo más a estudiar a la primaria, ha aumentado los hijos de los palmicultores, hasta mismos palmicultores están capacitando, están estudiando en universidades. Y gracias aquí a La Palma, las comunidades han aumentado la área comercial, se han creado nuevas empresas en la zona de Tibú. Hay 2 plantas extractoras, procesadoras de aceite de palma, las cuales dan trabajo, generan empleo y dan trabajo a los mismos hijos de palmicultores que han salido egresados de las universidades. Entonces, La Palma ha sido para el Catatumbo una bendición, a pesar de que estamos en una zona de conflicto. La Palma nos ha generado un futuro. La palma para nosotros es una esperanza. Hay muchas personas que tienen su cultivo ilícito y ya se han retirado de eso. ¿Para qué? Para sembrar palma, porque ven que la palma es la esperanza, es vida, es transformadora de vidas, es generación de empleo, generación de desarrollo. Entonces, La Palma ha sido una bendición. También gracias a todo este proceso de buenas prácticas y el empeño mío de ser una finca modelo, elegida en el 2017 como Mujer Palmera. Eso fue una gran felicidad para mí, ya que eso es para qué, para demostrar a los palmicultores y a las mujeres palmeras que podemos salir adelante, que nuestras fincas, nuestros predios pueden ser ejemplos. ¿Con qué? Con pequeñas acciones, porque la sostenibilidad no encierra magnitudes, no es compleja, es algo sencillo que lo podemos hacer nosotros de nuestra voluntad, con amor, porque yo digo que aquí el lema para nosotros ser sostenibles es que tener amor y dedicación con nuestro cultivo. Entonces, y también tuve la oportunidad de participar en Indonesia, me invitó el gobierno de Indonesia y estuve en el primer curso de La Paz en el 2018. Entonces, La Palma me ha traído muchísimas bendiciones, y no solamente a mí, sino a mi familia, a la comunidad en general. Entonces, ha generado unos impactos excelentemente positivos para nuestra comunidad y para mí en persona. También La Palma, como tal, es sostenible en su magnitud. Totalmente encierra toda la sostenibilidad, la engloba toda, ambientalmente. Ay Dios, eso nos ha enseñado, lo que decía mi compañera, nos han capacitado ¿para qué? Para conservar la sostenibilidad. Encierra conservación, encierra protección, protección de nuestros trabajadores, protección de nuestra comunidad, protección del medio ambiente. Para mí, yo digo que La Palma es la bendición, es la vida que llegó al Catatumbo, es la transformadora de vida del Catatumbo. Muchas gracias.
Teresa, gracias, and thank you so much. I have a question for you, and then for Nelsie, and then also for Maria Rueda. You mentioned, you said something I love. You said the oil palm or the palm oil is a bless, and it provides protection, and you outline all the great aspects of the cultivation of palm oil and oil palm on your life as a smallholder, as a small farmer. As you know, in Europe, there is a discussion on improving sustainability, and particularly injecting sustainability along the supply chain. And one of the risks, or one of the challenges, is that the new legislation will somehow say a green light to those countries that are committed or following certain rules, and red to the ones that are not following. Are you afraid that in this case, the cultivation of palm oil and your work is on one side challenged by oil palm, by the European regulation, and on the other side, it becomes a challenge that you cannot take? And what would you like to get from us as European in terms of support? You got the question, Teresa?
Sí, señor Pietro, para mí lo que sigue en la Unión Europea es un desafío, sí, pero cada día estamos para mejorar. Nosotros cada día, ante un desafío, ante un tropiezo, nosotros podemos mejorar. Nosotros, los palmicultores, somos personas que con fuerza, con perseverancia, y nosotros tenemos que mejorar. Siempre buscan ellos la sostenibilidad. Debemos apuntar todo el 100% de los palmicultores ¿a qué? A la sostenibilidad. Como le comentaba, no es difícil, es perseverancia, amor por lo que se hace. Entonces, la palmicultura es dedicarle más amor, perseverancia a nosotros pequeños palmicultores, medianos, grandes. ¿Para qué? Para buscar la sostenibilidad, que es lo que apunta la Unión Europea. ¿Qué esperamos de la Unión Europea? Pues que, como siempre, los mejores precios, mejorar precios, que ahorita actualmente está un buen precio aquí en Colombia, especialmente en la zona de Tibú, buen precio el de la fruta. Entonces, eso es mantener unos precios asequibles. ¿Para qué? Porque eso genera, eso es motivación. Mientras nosotros nos motiven, sean las personas extranjeras nos motiven en la compra del aceite, en la adquisición del aceite, nosotros hacemos todo con amor, y aumenta más el cariño, el esfuerzo que nosotros hacemos cada día en sacar un producto que es sustentable al extranjero. Entonces, lo que es mantener el precio, ayuda, sí, con respecto al precio, mantenerlo, equilibrio, y en lo que pueda capacitarnos todos con respecto, porque nosotros lo que queremos es capacitación, ayudas que a FEPALMA, a la gente, a la Federación Nacional, que ¿para qué? Para capacitaciones, ayudas que lo que nosotros necesitamos son capacitaciones. ¿Para qué? Porque nosotros, personas capacitadas, son personas que emprendedoras, en personas progresistas. Entonces, lo que el ser humano necesita, ¿qué es? Capacitación, porque si para capacitar llegamos a un futuro, que es lo que nosotros siempre hemos soñado, y la palma es la esperanza y la vida. Entonces, eso es lo que esperamos.
Thank you.
Muchas
gracias. Gracias, Teresa. Nelsie, what do you think?
Pero bueno, yo agregaría también que nos vieran, que nos creyeran, que estamos haciendo las cosas sostenibles, que nuestro aceite es sostenible, que nos visiten, porque es que yo creo que viéndonos, visitándonos, que hacemos las cosas bien, van a entender que nuestro aceite es hermoso, que nuestro aceite es puro, que nuestro aceite es lo que hablamos, es el amor que le ponemos, que hacemos las cosas con amor, y si hacemos las cosas con amor, estamos cuidando lo más bello de la vida, que es el medio ambiente. Y si estamos cuidando el medio ambiente, estamos apuntando a la sostenibilidad. La sostenibilidad es eso, para el mundo, créanos, visítenos. Eso es lo que yo le pediría también a la Unión. Yo sé que nos capacitamos y yo sé que Fedepalma, Cenipalma hacen el esfuerzo enorme mandándonos a sus técnicos, a sus especialistas, a sus agrónomos, y nosotros vamos de la mano con ellos haciendo escuela. Pero yo quiero que nos crean que la fauna la estamos conservando, que nuestros ríos los estamos cuidando, que estamos sembrando, que para nosotros es prioridad la arborización, es prioridad mantener las especies nativas, es prioridad que los que vienen atrás de nosotros aprendan todo esto, que no se quede únicamente en nosotros, en los que están trabajando al lado, el hoy, sino que sepan que esto es mantener la vida a largo plazo. Eso lo estamos haciendo.
Gracias, Nancy, for being here with us, and I want to thank Maria. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I want to thank everybody that was here, particularly the real farmers and also the representative, Dr. Alzim and Pak Diono. Basically, the message is the same. Beside the passion, beside the acknowledgement for the great work, is also a premium price. So promise. One of the next discussion will be on who is paying for sustainability in terms of price. Are we facilitating the work of smallholders, or on the other side, are we charging consumers? But I started with Gart, and I want to go back to Solidaridad and Gart as an advisor on EU policy. Gart, we listened to all these incredible voices, and I will never be tired of thanking them for being here with us, because they really took time. They left their plantation late at night in Asia, early morning in Latin America, and they joined us and they brought their voice here. And I want to bring their voice here in Europe and to Brussels and make sure that they are heard when we talk about sustainability, when we talk about climate change. This is a global issue, and I think our duty is to bring these voices here in Europe, bring them in Brussels, and make sure that they are heard, and also make sure that we're thankful for the incredible work they do every day. Because if we get food on the table, is at the end of the day, is thanks to them. So I want to thank all of you. Before ending, I want to thank Patricia as well, our translator. She did 90 minutes of translation. Some of you have spoken, including myself, very, very quickly. So I'm sure she deserves some rest. But before, Gert, having heard all these voices, what do we expect from the European Union?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I'm a bit reluctant to take the floor after all these people from different countries in the world that have given all these, for me, sometimes emotional messages about what palm oil is really achieving. And I really liked the phrase palm is life, and also palm creates development. I think the main message, and that was also something that was stressed in the chat. I think it was Salvatore Penizzotto who said that what is important if we really want to progress, that is that we have a constructive dialogue between producers, producing countries and consuming countries. And that comes back also to what Nelsie said. It's about trust and about cooperation. And what is crucial, I think, is that sustainability is not something that can be imposed upon farmers from an office in the European Union, But as also was stressed by our speakers from Malaysia and Indonesia, it has to be homegrown and it has to be rooted into the culture and the beliefs of farmers. And we need to cooperate to progress day by day. And I think that is what should be the main message. Europe can introduce legislation, but in the end, we need to work together based on trust and based on dialogue to really make sure that we progress on sustainability. And I think also listening to these excellent voices from these 4 different countries, I think that should also be the main message from this session, apart from what is being the testimony from all countries about the huge progress that palm oil can bring about, and that it can be done in a sustainable way without deforestation if we cooperate and work together and make sustainability something that is really in the hearts and minds of farmers themselves as well.
Thank you, Ger. In the meanwhile, I received this sample of a book that's about small farmers. It's produced by the CPOPC, that is the Council of Palm Oil Producer Countries. Thank you for sharing this with me. I assume it's available on their site, and it can be purchased on their site. Let me turn it off. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with me last minute. You're right, Gert. This was very emotional, and I have to honestly thank everybody here in the panel for bringing us to some passion, emotion, and to tell us true stories. Sometimes we are lost in the European discussion around legislation, and we forget the ground where we come from and where the food that gets on our table comes from and who produces it. So I definitely agree with you. Cooperation and working together will take a long time. Sometimes it will prolong the discussion around legislation, but it's what is needed today in a global world to produce a legislation that benefits European consumers, but at the same time, acknowledge the great and amazing work that is done around the world. We visited Indonesia, and I want to thank the 2 speakers, Pak Diono from the Indonesian Palm Oil Association, Palm Oil Smallholder Association. I want to thank a smallholder, a farmer, 2nd generation, that is Maria Goldmeyer, a smallholder from Indonesia. I want to thank Dr. Azmil Azan from the National Association of Smallholders Malaysia, that brought the focus on the premium price that somebody has to pay in order to produce sustainability. And of course, I want to thank Juan Lenos from Guatemala, that brought the perspective of smallholders in Guatemala. And then the great contribution that Colombia is bringing to the discussion on palm oil and the role of the smallholders, and particularly to Daniel Mauricio Rico Valencia, who showed us a very important slide. And again, I want to challenge every commodity. Produce one slide that shows how one hectare is capable of producing in terms of healthcare, education, prosperity, and also fighting illegal, in this case, in the case of Colombia, narcos. And I want to come back with that in January, maybe with a discussion around how oil palm plantation are defeating narco trafficking, or at least plantation of the cocaine crop. And therefore, I also want to thank, particularly together with Maria Goldmeyer from Indonesia, Nelsie Vega and Teresa Peña, that they took their time to move in a location where they have access to a good internet connection for being here with us. This was the last Competere webinar for this semester and for 2021. As you know, it's been a dramatic 2 years, but we have done, I think, a great job in bringing all these voices, these global voices together. In January, we come back again with another series of webinars and discussion and work that we do here in Brussels with all the European officials. I want to thank all the people that have been here with us, many people, considering we're approaching the holidays, and also the ones that have not been here. We make sure that we'll receive our message. In the meantime, you know, it's holidays approaching, it's New Year, and so I want to wish you the best for the next 2022, a joyful and peaceful New Year, full of great commodities, particularly oil palm and palm oil, I would say, from smallholders. And I want to wish you, all of you, a great holiday season. Thank you so much. Have a good day or a good night, depending where you are. Love you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you so
Pacquiao.
much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Pietro
you,
Paganini.
Thank you,
everybody.
Nancy. Thank you, Teresa.
Grazie
Thank you,
and good
Maria.
night.
Thank you,
Have a
bye.
great day. Thank you,
Bye-bye
Maria.
all.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Thank
Gracias.
you.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
Pietro.
Gracias. Muchas gracias.
También a ustedes, a todos.